YouTube! Okay, so today I'm going to talk a bit about how I draw chibis. Now, there's a lot of different chibi styles out there, and really I'm not exactly qualified to talk about all of them, so this is just going to be focusing on how I draw chibis, and the various style choices and anatomy choices that I make for this kind of stylized method of drawing. So this is how I do it, and hopefully seeing that will provide you some inspiration for how you can develop your own chibi style. So yeah, I'm just going to get right into it with a cool blank canvas. Alright, so first I'm going to talk about the head. Now if I were drawing a more sort of demi-realistic style, I'd start with a circle, and then I'd bring down a chin, and that's kind of how I'd define the shape. And then the ears would go kind of around here, or if it was from the side, the chin would go down a bit more like that. With chibis, there's not so much chin. I'm still going to start with a circle, and I'm still going to kind of define the center line there, but I'm only going to bring the chin down just a very little bit, and more of what I want to do here is round out the cheeks, round out the form, and still give it that kind of skull shape, so it's still got that back piece and the front, but it's a lot more squished and small as it goes in there. And again, for the sort of demi-realistic style, if I'm going to put in the facial features, we're going to get the eye line right here in about the middle, so about halfway between there, and then halfway between the eyes and the chin, we're going to have the nose line, and halfway between the nose and the chin, we're going to get the mouth line, and that's about where you're going to go. On the chibi face, I'm still going to start about halfway down, maybe a little further down. You want to go lower rather than too high. And I'm still going to put the eyes in there, but I'm generally going to put the rest of the face really close together right in this center area here. So everything's going to get a lot more squished down. So just to show that a bit more clearly, going from the top to the bottom, still about the middle. Now, people will do eyes a lot of different ways for chibis. It's very popular to do them as kind of really big, giant anime eyes, and I will do that sometimes, especially if I feel like I want the eyes to show a lot. But for my own personal style, I tend to default to these cute little dot eyes that I spread very, very far apart on the face. And then yeah, I'm going to try and bring the mouth and the nose up just about as far as I can on the head. And keep them all together, so you're going to have a really wide chin area here as opposed to just a little tiny chin down there. So while I'm drawing faces on chibis, one of the things I like to do is really try and exaggerate the expression as much as I can. So let me just clear some of this out. So I'm not just going to do a chibi smiling. Whenever possible, I'm going to do a chibi with a huge grin. And the eyebrows just up super high to super exaggerate that. Or if I'm going to do a chibi that's unhappy, I'm going to try and exaggerate that too. So I'm going to do big expressive eyebrows and a really distraught face. And again, when the mouth is coming open here, I will shrink that chin area. But if I'm just doing a very small smile for whatever reason, I'll usually bring it up really high on the face. And the idea of really exaggerating your facial features plays a lot into how I do bodies for chibis as well. In that, whenever possible, I try and make sure that my chibi poses are really dynamic and interesting. And, you know, a chibi just standing there can be really cute, and it can look kind of, you know, cute and fun and like whoever it's supposed to look like. But I think that just taking the time to make up a slightly more interesting pose, it gives you a whole new chance to characterize whoever you're drawing. And, you know, chibis are fairly simplified drawings. So the more you're able to use pose and dynamic action to sort of define the character of whatever you're drawing, the more you're going to get out of that very simplified drawing, the more personality, the more characterization. And for me, that's pretty important. So yeah, for bodies. Now if I was drawing again sort of demi-realistic, I'm going to start by defining the chest and maybe the torso, the line between it, fits, might have some shape there, and then, something like that where I'm going to have a few different pieces showing. So a chest piece and then a torso piece and everything kind of connected. With a chibi, I'm kind of more drawing a bean. I like my chibi torsos to be kind of all one piece, and it'll bend and stretch depending on what the chibi's doing. And often I'll kind of define a chest area as I'm going, but I'm going to draw it kind of all in one shape. And I will usually start with the head. Obviously I was just drawing beans there, but I'll usually start with the head, and then I'll define the torso just as a little bean. And it is still important to keep that bean very three-dimensional, so you can't just draw kind of an oval. It's good to give it some squish and to really define where the sides are, because that's going to help with placing limbs. So again, with limbs, for something more realistic, I might start by doing the upper arm and then a joint and then the arm itself and then adding the hand. But for a chibi, again, I'm going to start with that bean, and I usually start my hands off as just little stick figure arms. And this isn't obviously as realistic because arms aren't really noodles, they have that joint in them, so I will usually add that joint as I keep going. But I find just starting with the noodle for arms and for legs as well gives me that really nice sense of flow, which keeps things very stylized and simple. The exception, of course, is if I have hands that are doing something with their joints where that's going to make it more difficult, or usually I'll start by just defining the lower hand and then filling in the rest as needed. And yeah, again, so you see I'm starting with these very simple legs, but if I'm fleshing this out to be a bit more detailed, then I'm going to start defining where that joint is in the middle there and giving those arms and legs just a bit more body. And so obviously this is a theme here, but again, for hands and for feet, I'm keeping things very simple. Feet, I'm starting as these little triangles, being very careful to get that heel in though, because I find if you just kind of do it as a triangle without the heel, it looks really flat, whereas making that heel very obvious helps give the foot a bit more shape. And for hands, again, the same thing. I will, just like with the arms, I'm not going to define joints in the fingers. And unless I do need to do a pose with the hand where the joints are a little bit more necessary, then the joints might come into play a bit more. But yeah, keeping things very noodly, but still trying to make sure that they're three-dimensional and the joints show whenever it's necessary for them to do so. Yeah, so I think that's about it for how I could describe this. So I'm just going to go ahead and do a few simple drawings, just from start to finish, just sketches, to show you roughly how this looks. Yeah, so that's about it for this little tutorial slash demonstration. I really hope that was useful or at least somewhat entertaining. And if you do want to see me drawing a chibi from start to finish as an actual finished piece, like the ones I showed off right at the beginning, I do have videos for most of these on the rest of my channel that you can take a look at. So thank you so much for watching and checking out the channel, and I really hope I will see you in the next video.